But first, I wanted to have a bit of a chat about these hate speech legislation that Labour has put up and is trying to ram through Parliament, which is just cynically taking advantage of the terror attack at Bondi to create a vast new apparatus that could send Australians to jail for up to 5 years simply because they used hurty words, even if no one's feelings were actually hurt by them. But I want to come at this debate from a slightly different angle. You see, Anthony Albanese is very keen to push these laws because he thinks that they're necessary to preserve our multicultural society. Because, multiculturalism is so fantastic that apparently we need ever stronger laws to make sure we all behave and don't kill each other.
And we have a great multicultural country. It is important that Australia continue to be defined, as we are overwhelmingly, by harmony and by being enriched by the diversity of our cultures.
Is that so, Mr. Albanese? Are we enriched? Well, as a migrant from America to this great country, I'd like to take you up on this point. You see, I've called this great land home for about 25 years now, and I've been a citizen so long that I've had to renew my passport. And I'd like to make a contribution to enrich, as it were, our diverse Australian culture by making a suggestion that goes beyond what you like to think of as the benefits of multiculturalism. Coffee and kebabs and all of that. And suggest an idea that might actually make Australia stronger, borrowed from the USA. Free speech. Yes, that's right. And though I know it makes a lot of people in this country, and I've been called a seppo more times than you can imagine for my trouble here, there is crucially something I would like to say about that. And that is, number one, I would like to never see anyone thrown in jail for calling me that, but also because in the wake of the Bondi massacres, which took 15 lives and saw another 40 or so people wounded, there has been an incessant call to do something. As if the whole atrocity could have been prevented if only there were better laws in place and if there were more rules to stamp out hate and make sure we all love one another. But is that really the case? I mean, again, let me go back to the US, where the First Amendment is the law of the land and the gold standard for free speech around the world. America allows people to say pretty much anything short of immediate incitement to violence, as opposed to what Labour is proposing, which, as Adam Creighton wrote brilliantly about in today's Australian, isn't only about legislating ways to stop hurt feelings, but also the mere possibility of hurt feelings. Hateful conduct under this law, he writes, even includes disseminating ideas of superiority over another person or a group of person because of their race, color, or national or ethnic origin. And even without these laws, there are already strong hate speech statutes, so that we need to talk about on the books, both federally and New South Wales, where the terror attack occurred. Yet why is Australia, with all of its rules about speech already, if these rules were so effective, why are we in the midst of an anti-Semitism crisis here? Well, in the US, they aren't. I was thinking about this and how whenever I go back to the US, people always ask me, what is happening? What is going on? Why is there all this anti-Jewish hate in Australia? Yet no one in Australia ever asks me the same thing about the US. What I'm trying to say is that free speech, even when that involves so-called hate speech, does not necessarily lead to anti-Semitism or racism or hate. So what could account for the differences between the two nations? Well, for one thing, American multiculturalism is still predicated around the idea of an American ideal, and people want to become Americans in a way that, frankly, I don't think happens here. And I know we're about to celebrate Australia Day, and it's a wonderful thing that we do. But our Australian identity, what are migrants told about how great this country is? Well, I'm not sure that really exists, given how thin we have let our idea of a common Australianness becomes so thinly spread, in no small part thanks to Albanese's pals on the left who for decades have rubbished and ridiculed Australia's traditional idea of itself as backward and bogan and, heaven help us, all too white. Now, happily, Anthony Albanese's bill seems to be in trouble, with now Christian and Muslim leaders being the latest to say that this thing really is not a good idea. Yesterday, opposition leader Susan Ley, to her great credit, called the bill unsalvageable, though for my money it is not just unsalvageable, but also unnecessary. And I worry about reports that she will instead want to salvage it with a hate speech bill of her own. This is, I have to say, unwise. Because remember, what happened at Bondi was the result of two men allegedly motivated by Islamic radicalism who had an Islamic State flag in the car and guns that, had the laws been enforced properly, well, they likely would never have had them, and they would never have been able to at least acquire them legally, and possibly this thing wouldn't have happened. Everything they did along the way was already illegal. Laws that would shut down difficult conversations about questions around Islam and culture and migration are actually the last thing that we need. So that's my 2 cents here as an American migrant who wants to help Australia with this little bit of U.S. culture. But if you don't believe me, have a listen to LNP Queensland MP Garth Hamilton, who I reckon might be carrying the torch for the coalition on this issue. Take it away, Garth.
What I'm about to say now could get me sent to jail for 5 years under Labor's hate speech laws. China was wrong for starting a trade war. Australia is better than China because we didn't start a trade war. Now, all it would take was someone to feel intimidated by that statement, and I could be prosecuted under Labor's hate speech laws, section 80.2BF. It is an offence to disseminate ideas of superiority because of the national origin of the target group. That's it. That's it. That's all that's required. This is just one of a few concerns I have about this legislation. The test was whether they made it harder for radical Islam to spread in Australia. Sadly, these laws fail that test. In fact, they make it easier for radical Islam by effectively criminalising secular critique of some of its practices. And for that reason, I will not be supporting these laws as they stand. But have a look for yourself and let me know in the comments what you think.